You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back for a special edition episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Oh, goodness. You know, right before we get to the season 6 finale, right before we get ready for the rest of this Juneteenth week, it just had to happen. It just, something was bound to happen. Trump being convicted, nope, no special edition episode. We knew that was going to happen. But then something just happens that just really warrants its own brief episode, because I'm not going to be too long on this. Special edition episodes typically are shorter episodes, but you all had asked for it, and so here we go. The more you live, the more you can tell stories that you didn't expect would happen. The headline is Justin Timberlake charged with a DUI, released from police custody. The thuggery. So he was arraigned on one count of driving while intoxicated, and he was released from police custody in New York. CNN reported on it. Everybody else reported on it. So apparently on Tuesday night at 2:30 a.m., the police says that he was operating his vehicle in an intoxicated condition in Sag Harbor in New York. Now, he was driving a 2025 BMW. He did not stop at the stop sign. He failed to maintain his lane of travel. And then it got interesting. He told the cops, that he had one martini and followed his friends home. That was it. He says it was one martini, and he decided to just simply, drive and follow his friends home. Well, it don't seem like that was the case. According to police, he was bloodshot and glassy. The eyes were bloodshot and glassy, not gassy. And there was a strong, quote, odor of an alcoholic beverage coming from his breath. Now, they said that he was unable to divide attention. He had slowed speech. He was unsteady of foot, even though I don't know if he was unsteady of foot because he was intoxicated or just because he's never knew how to really dance nor really have rhythm. But in this case, they said he was unsteady of foot and he performed poorly on all standardized field sobriety tests. Now, they asked him, if he would take a chemical test. Now, a chemical test would see if there was any toxins, drug use, other things of that nature. He said, no, I'm not doing a chemical test. He refused to do a chemical test, which is different from a sobriety test, just to be clear. Now, the report contains details of his field sobriety tests. Basically, he was placed under arrest. He was held overnight for arraignment. He was also cited for running a stop sign and failure to keep in his lane. He was released without bail. There's a court date scheduled for July 26th. That's next month. Now, for whatever reason, or maybe I know the reason, people was messaging me all day, early in the morning, several DMs, just letting me know that this happened. And I was just like, I don't care what this white man is doing. But then you kept on messaging me. And I was like, what can I say? What can I say? I mean, why? What have I not said that need to be said? And it hit me that it was the eve of Juneteenth. Juneteenth is on June 19th. And so I said to myself, okay, on the eve of Juneteenth, there were some images by the Daily Mail that showed him being taken out in a perp walk, I believe they call it. And I just simply wrote a post and said, happy Juneteenth Eve. That's all. We're going to keep it clean. I'll post a picture. Leave me alone. I'll move around. Well, you didn't. It is going viral on the internet. Super viral. Very viral. And tons of thousands of retweets, likes, messages, thousands upon thousands. A lot. And yeah. My book sells for the case of cancel culture, which you all know I detailed this situation extensively in my first chapter of my first book about Justin Timberlake, myself. And interesting enough, this month will be 8 years. 8 years since our Twitter spat that clearly broke the internet, changed the game, changed my career, and clearly began the beginning of the end of his, respectively so. Who would have thought 8 years from now, I would be where I would be. He would be, having a horrific mug shot, looking like he came out of a January 6th situation. But he, of course, did not participate in January 6th, just for clarity. But, one martini, though. He had one martini with them type of eyes. Not Justin. But he's lied a lot. He has lied a lot. He's lied a lot. So it's been a lot going on. There's been a lot being said. Let's be clear. He's not going to jail for a long time. That's not going to happen. But it's just been a very interesting set of years for Timberlake. And this year, I just feel like it's been a very, very, very bad year for him. I mean, the album's flopping. Of course, it flopped. This tour has been a shit show. He was supposed to be performing in Chicago. I guess he still will be, most likely, on Friday in Chicago. Janet Jackson will actually be there a couple of days before him. Coincidence? Who knows? A lot of people's been, messaging me being like, what do you think about this? And yada, yada, yada. It's just unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. I mean, the internet never forgets. A lot of people have been pulling up audio clips of him throwing shots at, some of our longtime faves, including Britney Spears. It's been interesting to see it all play out. I want you all to hear this clip. Maybe you can all have a memory lane. I'll play it for you.
You know who you are.
Hold on.
I'm speaking to you. Stop drinking. You're going to get sloppy. Okay is going to say, stop drinking. You know who you are. I'm speaking to you. Stop drinking. You're going to get sloppy. Okay is going to say something bad about you.
So he said this back in 2007. He was throwing a shot at Britney Spears at the time, which you all know in 2007, Britney was not in her best light. He was throwing that shot at her when he won a British Music Award, a Brit Award. And this was in 2007 when, he was, allegedly bringing Sexy back. And he was throwing a shot at Britney back then and talking about her sobriety and the hardships she's going through. And here we are in 2024. And, karma, right now, sales have been skyrocketing for Britney Spears' song Criminal, which came out, many, many years ago. This is during the Femme Fatale era in 2011, but fans are buying Criminal, which is a song by her, and they've been sharing streams of it. This is the first time Britney Spears fans have come out and have bought songs, by her that was inspired by issues pertaining to him. I think it was during that time, there was another song or album, I believe, by her in The Woman in Me when she refers to Justin Timberlake, and a lot of fans bought singles to a certain song by, it was, I think it was Every Time they bought the song Every Time. I guess in reference to what was going on in her life then. But the fans, Britney has had the hottest selling book of last year, memoir that sold crazy. And she's doing the best she can. She's living her best life, staying strong out there, Brittany Army. And here we are, so it's been a lot going on, for better or for worse. Justin Timberlake is going through it. But there's some interesting things, right? This man got arrested in Sag Harbor, which has a historic Black roots. Around the eve of Juneteenth, Sag Harbor, which people know is an area that a lot of Black folks have occupied during the summer. It is a space. To me, it's another form of Martha's Vineyard. Everyone talks about Martha's Vineyard, which I love. I'm going to go to this summer. But Sag Harbor is a historic Black summer retreat. There's Gullah Geechee Islands. There's all these other places across America. But that's also an area. And it's like interesting that I think he was there for the Hamptons. But ironically, a piece of land that is often, celebrated by Black folks, the famous cultural appropriator himself, the colonizer himself, is there and gets arrested there on the eve of Juneteenth for drunk driving. It's, you can't make this stuff up. It's just a moment in time, right? And just life. I mean, the man is aging like milk, like spoiled milk. He hasn't fully, kind of held himself fully accountable. And I think that's why things are the way they are. It seems like everybody who he's come for, has pretty much have found their way. Janet is still out here doing tours, sober, healthy, doing well, still slang. Brittany is gotten her freedom. I have blossomed in my own right. And he has just been on a rampage. I don't pray for people's downfall. That's not who I am. I do look for justice, though. I do believe in justice. Not justice for Justin per se. But I do believe in restorative justice. And so I look at this as restorative justice. It's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. And the fans are talking about it. The fans are having a field day. Driving under the influence. And I just got to say this too. Driving under the influence as a rich person. No one should be driving under the influence. Okay, let me just let that be known. No one should be driving under the influence. But it is something to be said for the fact that this man, with all the millions of dollars that he has, he's so rich. I don't even know why he still performs. He doesn't need to. He's terrible at this point. But to have that much money, to ride a 2025 BMW, you could have Ubered. You could have got a driver. You could afford a driver. You could have gotten one of your personal drivers to pick you up and take you. Why would you even do that? You've ruined enough lives as it is. Now we're going to be in a position where we could have endangered other people's lives. It's just reckless and careless. And, I hope that they make this man, do some serious reflection, community service, alcoholics, whatever that is for people who struggle with drinking. Because if you're at a point where you're drinking and you're driving, it's reckless. It's reckless. And so it's a lot going on. There's been a lot on the internet. There's been a lot of not true things. I mean, the internet's been wild. There was a tweet going around that went viral that was talking about things in his system that was not true. There was a false tweet, but people are falling for it. There was a fake, and I want to talk about this because media is real and getting information is real. So there was a Twitter account that goes by Pooh_Crave, but it's supposed to be Pop Crave. But as somebody who studies and just really pay attention to this, it's really hard. But on Twitter, they said, and this is not true at all, none of this information is true. Let me just be clear. But it went viral, and it said Justin Timberlake allegedly had traces of Molly, poppers, Truvada, and coke in his bloodstream following his DUI arrest in New York. Now, there were a lot of people that were quick to assume things because they read it. Now, the red flag for me was I know that they were trying to interpret Pop Crave, which typically is a legitimate news source. They try to normally they just aggregate news, but they really have put this out on the internet and it's gone viral. And people started, thinking that, believing that this is the case, and it's crazy because it's not true. But the internet will get caught up and people will start following stuff and believing everything they see. And so, even though it's a hilarious tweet, it's not true, it's not real, and there's no information on his actual toxicity levels. He did not want to do a chemical test of any kind. So we don't know, we don't have the information on that, and that's not true. So I want to just put that out there. It's DUI. What's also interesting is that, and this is part of the reason why people believed it, right? Because the Twitter account is verified. Twitter, a couple of us, like myself, who's been verified, has my loyal following. People know I'm a legit source of media. But nowadays, people can buy, blue checks, unfortunately. And so a lot of people don't know the difference now because a lot of people are just putting out fake information. And this is the Elon Musk problem with Twitter, or X as he calls it. I'm going to still call it Twitter. But one of the interesting things I've seen is seeing how the media has turned. The gag is real. One of the headlines, the New York Times original headline, they said Justin Timberlake is charged with drunken driving in Sag Harbor. That's the headline. But the sub-headline reads, or the subtitle reads, police in the Hamptons in that community gave few details about the arrest of the singer who was once among the prominent stars in American popular music. Now, further into this story, they say Mr. Timberlake was once among the most prominent male stars in American music, but his most recent solo album, quote, Everything I Thought It Was met with criticism and weaker than usual sales when it was released in March, becoming his first solo release to miss number one since Justified in 2002. 2002. So, the tides is turning. People are saying different things. People are talking about him in a different light. The coverage has definitely changed. Definitely made headlines because at the end of the day, an artist at his caliber or once caliber having the DUI is bizarre and shocking at this age. I mean, he's, got to be in his 40s. So for him to be at this point, caught up in this type of controversy, he's 43 years old. 43 years old doing the DUI. A lot going on there. So there's a lot to unpack. But my overall takeaway, listen, just be good people to people. Be good to people out there. Don't do people dirty. Don't be ugly. Don't be ugly. For myself, I thought when I wrote about the situation in my book, for me, I was ready to turn a new chapter and move on with my career. I still am going to, but it just seems like at this point, the fact that when people saw that headline, folks that I'm not even like besties with or anything like that were just like DMing me. It's like, there's just no escaping, that, you have that moment. I was teasing someone who messaged me and I was just like, y'all think you would have thought me and this man had a whole situation, like as if this is an ex or something. Clearly that's not the case. But like, you would have thought that, the way that people just message, I'm like, there's no personal relationship here. Like, it was a moment. And yes, it did carry. I must say, it did carry. A lot of stuff went down, which is why all of this is crazy. But it says something that tons of people that you don't even know, when they see a headline, they think of you, somebody else. It's just, this is wild. It is wild. It's crazy in its own way. But I just hope this man takes a break. He needs to take a break. He needs to retire. Hope that he, use this as a sober reminder, no pun intended, to just not drink and drive and think about his actions and just stop trolling people. I mean, apparently, while he was on tour initially kicking off, he was still throwing some shots at Britney, given the controversy that came out of her book about him. And he just seems to just not just let stuff be. Like, this man needs, like, you gotta let it go. You gotta, everybody gets to have their eventual, they last laugh. It took Britney a long time to get to this point. It took Janet. Now, Janet's a little different. Everybody keeps talking about, I know Janet's somewhere laughing, yada, yada, yada. I don't think so. I think, I don't know if anybody remember what went down when the Janet documentaries came out that I was interviewed for, but not featured in, because Janet decided to go a different route. She wanted to be, patch up things and kind of not really fixate over the situation. It's been 20 years since that situation went down between her. So on the 20th anniversary year of the infamous Nipplegate, here we are, and here this guy is. Like, life is interesting. Time will eventually tell and be the victor of things. I always believe in that. There's been people who have done me wrong, and it took a decade for them to get got, but they got, in their own way. Life happens, karma happens in its own way. And so sometimes, you get to age well, live well, and be able to have the last laugh. And, that's the coolness of it. I look at myself, and it's funny. People just tell me all the time, like, I don't look my age. I'll be 33 in October. And they say, oh, don't look my age. I'm like, what does that even mean? But, if you live an honest life, you keep it 100, you keep it a buck, you get to be able to be on the other side of the fence and be able to look at people and say, oh, you poor sweet soul. You can look back and people can eat their words later, and you can pity them, and you can tell them that they can go cry a river to a judge and do the same and have that same clap back. But I lead with love. I don't have any vengeance I don't have any anger for that man. I've made more money telling that story, telling my story, telling my experience, than if I didn't. If anything, it's one of those, thank you, Amy type of songs. So yeah, I just that's my take on it. I mean, I'll imagine more backlash and things will follow in the days to come, but I wanted to do a quick reaction because some of you all wanted to ask for it, and a lot of you wanted to know what I thought. And a lot of times you just can't put things in words and stuff. And that's why we have this podcast, because I can just pop up and do a special edition episode and then go about my merry day. So that's all I got. And I will see you all very soon for the season 6 finale that's coming out in the next couple of days. But as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.